a shocking story there this morning of unfair dismissal reported in the Irish Times. It's probably reported elsewhere as well. It's online anyway. It's to do with a South Dublin Chinese takeaway delivery driver. He was sacked after asking for a raise on the €5 an hour that he was earning. Not only was he earning only €5 an hour, but he was using his own car and putting petrol in his own car for the deliveries. And he did so on the basis that he sometimes got tips. William Yee was awarded €1,500, and we'll come to that in a minute because there's a very valuable lesson here for anybody who might be considering bringing a person or bringing an unfair dismissal claim, or indeed any other type of claim to the WRC. Because there is valuable lessons to be learned here from this sad case of basically exploitation. William Yee was awarded €1,500. The restaurant in question, the employer is Emerald Court Restaurant in Ranelagh. South Dublin Chinese takeaway, Emerald Court Restaurant in Ranelagh, behaved disgracefully according to Catherine Byrne, the WRC adjudicator. He was sacked without notice after looking for a rise on his €5 an hour cash in hand wages. He was awarded €1,500. Unfortunately, William Yee only brought a claim for unfair dismissal. He could have brought a claim for no handbook or no employment contract, rather, under the Terms of Employment and Terms of Employment Information Act 1994, I think it is. He could have brought a claim for minimum notice. He only brought it, and he probably could have brought a claim for rest breaks, and God knows he probably could have brought a claim under the Organisation of Working Time Act for annual leave and for public holidays. I don't know that for sure, but the likelihood is, given that they were flagrantly breaching the law and paying him below the minimum wage, he could have brought a raft of claims, including the minimum wage claim. He only brought, unfortunately, the unfair dismissal claim. So this is a case where anybody watching this video or listening to this should be able to see that ordinarily when a claim arises, it's quite possible that a number of claims will arise, and if you're going to submit a claim to the WRC, you might as well submit not one, not two, not three, but as many as you can. And the likelihood is, I don't know all the facts, but the likelihood is this fella had a number of claims open to him, and unfortunately he only brought the claim for unfair dismissal. Unfortunately also he made another fatal mistake, and we'll come to that in a minute. I want to just tidy up the facts of this. He used his own car to deliver food and he got no petrol money. He kept working for what he knew was less than the minimum wage because he sometimes got tips. Mr. Yee told the tribunal, told the WRC, that he'd been asking the restaurant's owner, Huru Zhu, for more than a year for a pay rise. And on Tuesday, 20th of March this year, he sent a text to his employer asking her whether she had considered his request for a pay rise and pressing her to make a final decision. He said that shortly after he reported to work at 5 p.m. the following Friday, March the 24th, Miss Zhu texted him and stated, "I found someone to replace your work. You don't work here anymore." It's an awful way to behave and treat any employee, quite frankly. He told the adjudicator that he had no contract or employee handbook and no pay slips from the job. So again, I repeat myself, but there was a raft of claims this man could have brought, and had he gone to a solicitor, or even if he'd gone to Citizens Information, they may have been able to help him fill out the WRC complaint form correctly and ensure that all of his claims were brought. He said that he'd worked starting in January 2020 and continuing through the COVID-19 pandemic up to March 2023, and he showed the WRC adjudicator text on his phone from his employer. The final communication from Miss Zhu recorded in the submission was the dismissal text, Miss Byrne noted. Miss Byrne is the adjudicator. She was satisfied that he'd more than 1 year's service and to make the complaint under the Unfair Dismissals Act 1977. She wrote that the likely reason for his dismissal was that he was persistent in asking for a pay increase. Whatever the cause, she said, I find that by dismissing him with no explanation, no notice, and in the absence of procedures, the conduct of his employer was entirely unfair. Measured against the standard of another reasonable employer in the same circumstances, I find that Mr. Yee was treated disgracefully. Here's where the kicker is for this poor man as well. She was limited, the adjudicator was limited to awarding 4 weeks' pay and compensation, only 4 weeks' pay, because Mr. Yee had stated he had not looked for work since his dismissal. And you must mitigate your loss, you must look for work when you're dismissed, and you must be able to prove that then at an unfair dismissal hearing by showing that you've made applications for jobs, you've had interviews, or you've had email responses from applications and so on. If you do that, then you're entitled to financial loss for the entire time of your unemployment. To put that in context, if Mr. Yee was dismissed in March 2023, and if the hearing was, for example, last week, well, then you're looking at, 9-10 months, maybe 8 months, whatever. March to November is 8 months. You're looking at 8 months' wages. And instead he was stuck with being awarded only 1 month's wages because he didn't look for other work. And he obviously gave that evidence, and he was obviously an honest man, and told the adjudicator that he hadn't looked for other work. So the adjudicator's hands were tied insofar as she must apply the law, and Mr. Yee hadn't looked for other work. Therefore he was only awarded 1 month's wages, which was 1,500 quid. As I say, the restaurant in question is the Emerald Court restaurant in Ranelagh, and that, in my view, I would agree with the adjudicator, is a disgraceful way to treat any employee. But moreover, Mr. Yee made a big mistake in not getting legal advice, or not getting advice from somebody who could have helped him to bring not just the unfair dismissal claim, but a number of other claims that were probably open to him, including no contract, perhaps Organisation of Working Time Act claims for rest breaks, perhaps pay for public holiday claims, perhaps annual leave claims. Let's face it, if he was getting paid €5 an hour into his hand, it's unlike, and driving his own car and putting petrol in his own car and doing deliveries, the other claims were probably open to him. Hope you find this useful. If you do, I'd appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up down below if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on my podcast, the Irish Law and Small Business Podcast, I'd appreciate if you left a review on either Spotify or iTunes or wherever you might listen to your podcasts. Thanks a lot.